everyone, welcome back to White Sparrow Living, Luke 12:6. I'm Wendy, and today we're going to be doing some projects inspired by Kirkland's home decor pieces and using Dollar Tree items to replicate or use an idea and make budget-friendly versions. That just means we're going to save money on a bunch of stuff, but still come out with some pretty cutie patootie items for your home. So while I was perusing their website, I found this adorable little sign. It says, "Stay a while." Now, the overall sign is 22 inches in diameter, but as you can see, it's $34.99 on sale. $49.99 is the regular price. So I'm going to try and do that for a lot less. So I'm going to be using this Dollar Tree Valentine's Day sign, and you can see I already used one of the galvanized hearts, and then this little love wood sign, and then I'm using an embroidery hoop. Now this one was gifted to me from a very sweet viewer, and I appreciate it so much. This is 12 inches in diameter, but I did find them at Michael's, and the 12-inch diameter embroidery hoops there are from $1.69 to $3.99. You can also find these at thrift shops, and they're kind of a dime a dozen. So anyway, I'm just going to disassemble my sign and use one of those plaques. I'm going to take my sandpaper and get it really smooth, and that's the back there with the sanding marks, but then on the other side is where I remove the paper. So now the important part of this is to get this little love part out of the stand that it's in. So I used my flathead screwdriver and then hammered it in with my hammer to get those little pieces off on the front and the back. Michael J would just kill me if he saw me doing this, but I need to keep that little tabby at the bottom, so that's why I'm taking this time to actually pull it apart. So then once I get it off, I'm going to start sanding it down. These are really rough cut around the edges, and then to get in those little nooks and crannies, I just took my sandpaper and I'm going to fold it over until it's teeny weeny and then can get in between those little letters. So now it's time to start painting all of my pieces, and I'm first going to paint the love sign with my black chalk paint. This is ink by Waverly, and I'm just going to get inside all of the little nooks and crannies again and get that tabby part at the bottom, the little bar that keeps the letters together. And I'm using a smaller paintbrush so that I can also get into the little nooks and crannies. And then I'm going to paint my embroidery hoop in that same ink chalk paint. And then I'm going to take my plaque and I'll use some white. This is actually Snow White. And I'm just going to brush that on, and I'll leave a little bit of that brown peeking through. I'm painting the side that I took the paper off of. Anyway, I'm going to get that all painted, and then I'm going to use a little bit of mineral. And I didn't mean to pour this much, but if you just need a little bit of paint and you don't want to leave your bottle open, you can always use these little muffin papers to put just a little bit of paint in. Not like I did, because I kind of just bonked it all out there. But I'm going to use that on top of the white. My white is not dry yet, and then I'm going to let those all blend in and put some more white over it just until I get it to the look that I want so that it resembles wood. So now I'm going to place my plaque onto my hoop, and then I'm going to turn it over. I want to make sure that it's centered and nice and even, and then I'll make lines where I need to cut that. Now I'm going to take this out to my miter saw. No, I'm not. I'm going to have Michael J cut it with the jigsaw. Sorry. But I did first make some little cuts in with the utility knife. I'm out of blades, so this is not that sharp. I think you could do this with a utility knife all the way through if you had sharp blades, but I went to my old faithful Michael J, and I could have done this too. Somebody commented and asked why I wasn't doing my own cutting. So this video, I did do my own cutting on the miter saw, but not on the jigsaw. He wanted to do it, so I let him. So once I got that cut, I did have to sand it down a little bit to make it fit in there perfectly. But then I'm going to take some tumbling tower blocks and hot glue those to the edges of the plaque, and then I want that to rest right up against my hoop so that I'll have some place to glue it. So I glued it first to the plaque, and then I'm going to take my hot glue and attach it to the sides of my hoop, and then I'll just kind of press it in so that it stays snug as a bug in a rug. Now I'm going to take my love sign, and here's why we needed to leave that little tabby part at the bottom. So I'm going to hot glue that to the back side of my plaque. And I put it a little bit off to the right side a little bit just to give it some more cuteness. So now for my plaque, I'm gonna cut out the words one another, so it's gonna say love one another instead of stay a while. But it's been a minute since I've used my cutting machine, so I know you guys like when I do my handwriting, but there's also people that like to use their cutting machine, so I decided to use it for this one. But of course you could handwrite this if you like your handwriting, and I know a lot of you do have some really good handwriting, so you could take this one step out, or you could do the transfer method where you print it out on your computer and then rub a pencil over the back side, turn it over, and then outline the actual letters, and then that'll transfer onto your piece, and then you can fill it in with a paint pen or just regular paint, whatever you like. But I also like to watch the weeding process. So I had a viewer ask me about the transfer tape I was using in another video. So I guess I did use my Cricut before this, but anyway, she had said how easy it looked when I used that transfer tape and it just came right off. So what I do is I keep my scraps and ones that I've used in prior projects in my transfer tape bin, and I'll have this in my craft room video if I ever get it done. But when you use it more than once, it actually seems to work better the more you use it. You can probably get, I don't know, 3 uses out of it, maybe 2, sometimes 4, it just depends. But you can also piece it together if a piece doesn't fit and you need to make it longer. The font I'm using on this is Cream Candy, by the way, because I want those little lines to overflow. So I just printed it out the way it is, and then once I get it down, I'm gonna cut those little tails off on both sides. But anyway, that's why it looks so much easier to pull off the transfer tape and use it, just because a lot of that sticky is already gone. So let's take a look back at the original piece from Kirkland's. I love this. I made mine a little bit lighter, and this is really the only one that is an actual dupe or duplicate of the piece. The rest of them are just more inspiration. And here's the finished project, and I love how this turned out. Again, it is half the size of the Kirkland's one, but I think it's also a very special message, which I was limited with. They also have at Dollar Tree the peace signs, like where my love is. So you could do at Christmas peace, and then on the bottom part put on earth. Anyway, I love it, and I hope you guys like it too. So if you guys know me, you know I love cloches and domes, and I found this little gem on Kirkland's website. This is a little cheese holder or some sort of thing, but it's $37.49. That's on sale. So even the size, it says it's a 6-inch dome, and so I thought I could replicate this. I happened to see this before I saw the Kirkland's item. Dollar Tree has really been stepping up their game ever since they added the Dollar Tree Plus items. There's $3 and $5 items. This caught my eye. I got both the smaller one and then a larger one for $5, these pretty glass vases. I'm going to be using this as the dome, but I thought I would show you guys all of the different options that are out there. So I picked up also, I guess this would be an ornament of some sort, and then I have my vase, and then in my stash I had a little wooden knob I'm going to be using as the little handle on top. So I'm going to get the stickers off. That's, I guess, the hardest part of this whole project. I'm going to use my heat gun and get all the stickies off and remove those with my Cricut spatula. I cleaned my vase with some Windex. So I'm gonna pull all of the pretties off of this little piece of wood, and this is gonna be the base of our dome. And it's the perfect wood. I mean, it's not like wood, you know, it's that particle board stuff. So I'm gonna set the little beaded handle off to the side. We're gonna use that in another project. And then I just took off all the little greenery and those staples. They put those in there pretty well, so I just used my flathead screwdriver and some needle nose pliers to get those out of there. Set those aside. Maybe we'll use that later, I don't know. And then I'm gonna sand down and get the ickies off with some more of that Windex and basically just get everything cleaned off. So then I'm just gonna take my little vase, turn it upside down and put it on my base, and then I'll take some permanent adhesive as well as some hot glue and place that right in the middle. Let that dry overnight so that it stays in place, and then add some mineral oil or butcher block oil to make this food safe, and it's done. We'll take another look at Kirkland's $50 version of this cloche, and here's ours, and I just think it's so adorable. No one would ever be able to tell that this was handmade. There wasn't a lot of work involved except for taking off that paper and just gluing on that knob. I love how this turned out, and I hope you like it too. So So my daughter wanted to get some reading book shelves for my granddaughter Cadence. You all know Cadence. And I found these on the Kirkland's website. This has got 2 sections to this, but it's super cute, but it's also $48.99, $69.99 is the regular price. I also found these. These were a little bit cheaper. They're only $24.49 for 2. They're a little bit smaller and only 1 section, but even that I thought was a little pricey. And so then I found these that has this little beaded detail at the top of these shelves. Here it is right here. And I really liked that, but I found some on Amazon, or actually my daughter found these on Amazon. They're a lot cheaper looking, but we're gonna change that. I'll have these linked in the description box below, but they were only $12.99. So you see on the back, they have the hangers where you can hang it upside down. Well, I guess this would be upside right, but it has it for the books where you slip it in behind, or you can turn it over and like in the kitchen, hang some kitchen towels or something. It's, you know, it can go both ways. And then I also have these little mini half beads that I found on Amazon. I'll put those in the description box below as well. So super easy again. I'm going to take some hot glue and just put those across that cross beam there and just go all the way across. If you get to a point, because one of them I kind of spread out a little bit more and it ended up working out just right, but on the second one I had to cut one of the beads because it didn't fit in there. So I have this handy dandy tool. I'll have this linked in the description box below that my friend Courtney over at Creative on the Cheap, I saw her use this one time to miter some sticks or whatever, and I just thought it was so good. So this was actually the very first time I ever used it. So I'm just going to take my white chalk paint and paint these, but because it's got that raw wood underneath, I like the color of that, so I'm just going to let some of that peek out and make it look distressed and super pretty. And in between the beads, I let some of that wood show, and super easy, super fast, just painted both sides, and then it's time to hang them. So I got Michael J to hang these for us, and we had a little helper too. Kendall, what are you doing? And here's how these turned out. You might remember the sign over on the left that we did. It's not a Dollar Tree DIY. These aren't either, but hey, if I'm making, I'm filming. So it's more of like a hack, I guess. So anyway, it's Kirkland's inspired. I love them and I hope you like them too. So going back to our Kirkland's website, I saw these adorable bookends and I think they're just so cutie patootie. You can see here it's a little bike and it's basically just split in 2. So I want to do that. This is $44.99. Of course I wouldn't pay that, but I was thinking that I could use anything and just split it in half to make bookends. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to be using a longwood sign, a rainbow sign, 4 Jenga blocks, and some batting. All of this is from Dollar Tree. And the first thing I'm going to do is take my sign apart. There's some little metal pieces on the top. I can keep those for another project at some point. And then I'm going to remove the little word that says coffee on the top. And I'm just using my CRICUT spatula again. Now this is going to be the bottom, so those stickies aren't going to matter. So I'm taking a piece of painter's tape and putting it onto my painting surface so that I can keep those in one place and they're easier to paint that way. So I'll just use my white chalk paint and I'm going to paint the back of my sign and all of the sides, and then I'll paint my Jenga pieces in the white. And I'm going to be making this for a church office, so I don't need it to say sweet dreams on our little rainbow. But if this was for your baby's room or something, this would be perfect and you would just leave that sweet dreams on there. So I'm going to take a teeny weeny little screwdriver and undo the little screws on the back of this for the hanger and take that off. I left the sticker on because I'm going to be cutting this down, so I thought it would be another little piece of protective layer. I'm going to put some tape over this when I cut it. You'll see in just a second. So I'm going to get the middle of both of my pieces, and here's where I'm adding that painter's tape because I'm going to be cutting this down using the miter saw in the garage. So this is just going to protect it so that it doesn't leave any splinters or raw edges. So I'm just going to go down right in the middle, and look, I'm doing it myself. Michael J didn't have to do this one. And I'm just going to cut my rainbow in half, and then I'll cut my base in half as well. So now I'm just going to take my white paint and cover up those parts where I just cut it and it's the raw wood. And then I'm going to take a sheet of Dollar Tree cork, and it was the exact width of my wood once I cut that down. And then I'll use my utility knife to cut along the edge on my cutting mat so you don't mess up your work surface and you have a perfectly finished bottom. Well, that didn't sound right. And these cork sheets are self-adhesive, so you can use this for any kind of project to finish it off. And just in case my cut wasn't exactly right, I'm gonna use the other side of the adhesive sheet to make sure that my edge is perfect. So now I'm going to take that painter's tape off very carefully so that I don't pull any of that paper off of my rainbow. And then I'm going to place my two base pieces together and then my rainbow on top of that. And then I'll use those Jenga pieces to hold the actual rainbow up. And then I made a line where my pieces need to go, and I'll hot glue those in place. And the bottom of the rainbow is a little bit curved at the end, so I was mindful to make sure that my Jenga pieces didn't show from the back. But in the end, it doesn't matter anyway because we're going to be covering this all up with some batting. And then once I get those down, I'm going to use my brad nailer to go through my Jenga piece and into the base so that it doesn't move at all. Now I'm going to take my hot glue and attach my rainbow to my base on those Jenga pieces and make sure that they line up because these are going to go against books, so we want those to be even and level. And then once I get that done, now you could just stop right here and the glue I'm sure will stay in place, especially if you were to add some permanent adhesive. But I'm going to be using the batting on this, so I'm going to do some more brad nailing from the front to keep those in place. I ended up having to use some batting on the back side because my brads went through my Jenga pieces because I didn't change the length of my brads. But, you know, do as I say, not as I do. So then I'm just going to take that batting and kind of pull it apart in pieces and make little round areas so that it looks like a fluffy white cloud. So I ended up using this rainbow sign for this project because it happened to match the same decor that was being used in that church office. But I had some other ideas before I chose the rainbow. I was going to do a pink truck. You could do a heart at Valentine's Day. Again, here's the inspiration, and it's loosely based on this. Maybe it's more of just the concept itself. And I think it turned out super, super sweet. But imagine all of the things that you can do just using this basic design. I love how this turned out, and I hope you guys like it too. So orbs are really popular right now, and I thought these were really cute. They're kind of covered in some kind of rattan or wicker of some sort. I think this would be really cute if you did this with that hula skirt raffia stuff. But these are $20.97 on sale. $34.99 is regular price. But we're going to be using these 3D wreath forms. Now there's two different types of twine that you can find at the Dollar Tree. One you can find in Crafter Square, and then one in the garden department. The Crafter Square twine is a little bit thicker, so that's what I would recommend for this project. So as you know, these balls kind of just spread out and open up into an orb. They're meant to be covered in flowers, but you know we can do whatever we want with these things. So I'm going to take my twine and I'm going to tie it in a knot on one of them and then start wrapping it around. Now I found that the easiest way to do it is to just wrap it without moving the spool of twine and then do it afterwards, because that way you can kind of keep it tight and in place. This is going to take a long time, and I timed it for you guys. It took me 22 minutes to do the largest one, and then it was a little bit less time as the hoops got smaller. But I decided about 5 minutes into it that I was going to only make one. Now the orbs that I showed you from Kirkland's, they only have like 3 of the little roundies, and you could do that and make it look the same. These are actually going to be a little bit larger than the ones from Kirkland's, but I ended up making mine a little bit different because remember, we're doing inspiration projects and we don't have to do exactly what they have. So I'm going to wind and wind around my hoop, and then once I get to the little stick, I'm going to go just right around it and just keep going. Once I get to the end, I'm going to tie a knot. Now, it wasn't until about the second hoop that I decided to add a top layer with a more spaced out wrapping of my twine, and it reminded me of an old project that we did at school when we learned how to macrame, and that basic macrame knot that you do, and it has it going kind of twisted around. It just reminded me of that, and you know, I like to get all nostalgic in any of my projects, so that's what I ended up doing and added it to all 4 of my hoops. So once I got them all done, I'm going to reattach them to the little stem on the inside of the largest one, feed those back on there, and then these little silver holders, you just put that over the little pokey thing and then wrap the silver around each of those hoops, and that's what's going to keep it spread out evenly. Now I went back and wrapped it with some more twine because apparently I couldn't get enough of that wrapping, so I wanted to cover it up, but you don't have to do that because afterwards you'll see we're going to be covering it with some flowers and you end up not even seeing it at all. And this would be the place where you could just stop and have your orbs all done and display them out on a shelf or tabletop, but I'm going to take it to another level. So now I'm going to take a little wooden birdhouse from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to paint him completely white with my chalk paint. And then for the roof, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. Originally, I thought I would just distress it with some darker colored paint, but then I decided to take one of these adhesive tiles from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to cut it the width of my roof and then attach that to the top and cut off those edges. And then to give it some more cuteness, I'm going to take a teeny tiny bit of moss and attach that to the front of the opening of my birdhouse so it looks like this is the home of a real life bird. So now I'm going to take that beaded jute twine that we used in our cheese dome project. I'm pulling off the beads, and this is going to be the topper for the top of this orb slash birdhouse cage thingy. And so I'm just going to feed those right back onto another piece of jute twine. I'm just extending the twine so that I have enough to make a knot on the top of my dome. No, not my dome. We already did the dome. My orb. And then I took a styrofoam ball and I'm going to put that on that bottom pokey part, the stem that's sticking out of the wreath form. And then I found these beautiful colored flowers at the Dollar Tree, and these were actually in the Halloween section, but they're so pretty. So aside from the black leaves that we're going to be removing, I thought these were just gorgeous, and so we're going to use them in this project. So all I did was pull the flowers off. These are the peonies, and then I also have the mums. These are so pretty. I just think this color, I could see this for a wedding of some sort, or I just think it's gorgeous. Anyway, I'm just going to pull those flowers off and replace them onto green stemmed leaves and then start poking them into that styrofoam ball. So just because it says Halloween, I don't think it has to be used for Halloween, because this is your project, so you can use whatever colors you want and you make the rules. And the good thing about these flowers is that they're kind of poofy, so they covered a lot of area with very few flowers. And I used a total of 3 stems for this project. I forgot to mention that on another video and somebody had asked me. So anyway, now I'm going to take a couple of extra beads that I had, and I'm going to glue those onto the top pokey part so that you can't see that. And then I'm going to take a whole bunch of hot glue and attach my bird cage to the top of my styrofoam ball. And then to cover up the base of it, I'll just take a couple more flowers and tuck that in there so you can't see that either. Now I'm going to use this last piece of greenery that I found a while back at the Dollar Tree. It just says decor. And I'm going to take one of these long pieces and let that drape down. I actually made that a little bit shorter in the end. And then I took some of the little pieces off of the longer pieces and put stems in there, and then started poking those out here and there throughout that whole ball of beautiful flowers. And then it's done. And so another look back at our inspiration piece that went a little bit off the rails. I still think these are really cute, but I just saw another opportunity to move forward. Plus I didn't want to do any more wrapping, that's for sure. And here it is all finished, and I am just so in love with this piece. I might have to just decorate a whole room around this specific color. I love how this turned out, and I hope you guys like it too. I hope you enjoyed all of these projects, and if you did, don't forget to give them a thumbs up, comment, let me know what you think. If you're not already, I hope you'll consider hitting that subscribe button down below, as well as the little bell right next to it, so that you can be notified every time I upload a brand new video. I hope everyone has a blessed day, and remember to always be the light. Bye!